3 snaps and a clap for your attention span. My name is Mario DeLeone and welcome to Voices of Victory. Today's going to be an interesting show. Just going to be an interesting show. We're going to talk about mastering social flow. In terms of being social and flowing with people socially in terms of leadership, this will be the video for you. So mastering social flow, ultimately, the core idea, truthfully, is energy, right? That's not something esoteric, the energy. It's just the cause and effect. You know, what you put out actually comes back. Think of it that way. You say something, it creates or provokes a response. Ball bounces, and then it bounces back, right? You throw the ball, it bounces back. So energy, at the end of the day, is really just mechanical. It's just flowing. It's just is. Let's wrap our heads around some different ideas. The first order of social flow is energetic balance or equilibrium, just having a sense of equilibrium with people. Think of it this way. Emotions are dynamic. They're changing. You know, you can go from happy to sad to argumentative. You can shift really quick. Outside of that, it's also interpersonal. When we're dealing with interpersonal aspect, it's not just a relationship with ourselves, but it's also how ourselves are relating interpersonally with other people. So in terms of leadership, the leadership is sovereignty over yourself, but also having a sense of interpersonal ability, because it's not about you. It's about the people you're also leading and taking care of as well. So that's very important. You have to be very clear within yourself. And that also could show up as being direct in your speech. Direct in your speech doesn't constitute being blunt. People are saying, oh, I'm just blunt. That's the way I talk. I'm just blunt. And you know what? Bluntness is not an excuse for a lack of having grace in your speech or just to be articulate. For those people that just say whatever they want to say, whenever they want to say it, when it comes to the development of grace, it's extremely hard for them. It's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Like their bluntness has become a bad pattern, a knee-jerk reaction, and probably even damaged some of their interpersonal relationships and relationships with other people. So bluntness, if you make an excuse for it, it's the argument for limitation, the argument against the development of developing grace and articulation, okay? Now, another thing that's important is being grounded in your intention. Like whatever your intention is when you're dealing with people, being transparent is part of showing that intention. Where people will use their intentions, manipulate their intentions, and start to go in all of that crazy stuff, right? That's not. For you, you want to be grounded in your intentions. Like, okay, you know, we're going to have this discussion. I want us to walk away with a solution at the end. That's being grounded in your intention that this conversation, it might be rough, it might not be rough, but at the end, we are going to figure it out together. We're going to come to a solution. So that's being grounded in your intention that, you know, you're getting to know somebody and your intentions, hey, I'm just having the intention to get to know you a little bit. That's it, you know? And we don't always have to say it per se. You know, it's not like we have to put it on a neon light or something. But being grounded in your intention is like showing. It's not just always verbalizing, but it's also physically showing that you're grounded in the decisions and choices that you're actually making. And this comes down to values, having a level of values that you can depend on. Now, mutually attuning yourself. So when you're dealing with another person, it's like attunement. You know, it's kind of like dialing a frequency until you hit the right radio station, right? Mutually attuning is listening. Like listening, getting to know the person. Take a moment to just say nothing and just listen and just mutually attune yourself to the person. Get to know how they speak, where they're from. It's okay to ask questions. Now, the questions you ask, if the questions are extremely deep, you could see people shut down immediately. Some people don't like depth. I'm a very deep person. Some people don't like that because it creates this vulnerability within them. So you have to kind of feel out your questions. You know, you could have questions that are a little bit more on the surface. To me, superficial questions really just give you superficial answers. Do you like this show on Netflix? Like, okay, we're going to have a discussion about commonalities. That's okay, right? If you're crossing that bridge, it's more of a commonality thing. But to get to know the human being in front of you, there is some connection. You know, you can connect on a deeper level. And that might involve questions. And if they're constantly shutting down, you could take that as a red flag. You know, you could take that as a red flag in the way they deal with you. You got to remember, the people you're communicating with, they act from their own framework and reality. Very important. So mutually attuning yourself is like they're dialed in on 101 FM excitement. You're dialed in on 101 FM excitement. So it's a little bit of matching. You don't have to like speak the way they speak or mirror them so much. There are people that will mirror people like so much. But it's really just attuning yourself mutually. Like, just listen, get to know them a little bit, and feel the vibe out, you know, if you will. And last but not least, the most important, this is like the most critical part of this video when it comes down to it, is no superiority. You're not going to act like you're superior. You're not going to act like you're inferior, and there's no neediness. Discard neediness immediately. No inferiority, no superiority, no neediness. So when there is a mutual flow and that conversation is flowing, usually it's because you're present. You know, being present is going to be important. So if you're on your phone and scrolling, there's no presence. You're not giving that person your presence. You're just, you know. And if you think they're not important enough, that's what it conveys, is that whatever you're saying is not important, so I'm just going to continue to scroll. And that really can come up as a major communication red flag. It does show a lot about them. You got to remember, when people start acting a certain way towards you, the first frame of mind or belief that you want to have is this is not entirely about you. Got it? So we want to have that inner flow, and that inner flow shows that we're present. So when it comes down to mutual respect, there are people that play around with that. There's conditional respect. Conditional respect is what certificates you have, what jobs you have, what you've achieved, what you've done. And there's people that won't give you mutual respect. They're like, because, well, you don't do the fitness that I do. You're not as smart as me. You're not in the same grade as me. You're not in the same class as me. You're not this. You're not that. And that type of conditional respect is going against the superiority and inferiority principle that we talked about. So conditional respect is basing your respect on people's achievements and what they acquire and what they do and what they have. That's what that is. It's highly judgmental. Where the person over here that is unconditional respect, they're a homeless person, let's say, or an average Joe, and quite honestly, they have basic human dignity. By the virtue of being a human being, there's basic human dignity, that they are a human being. And when we look at it in this way, is that when you're dealing with other people, your respect can be very unconditional until that conversation, until they start to act from a framework where you can disengage and say, you know what, yeah, this is not gonna. This is a relationship I don't think I want to invest in. You know, I don't want to invest in a relationship that's draining, right? And that's the thing. It comes down to that. So I wanted to share with you those last two key points, which is be mutually present. You know, be present, and have that mutual respect. The mutual respect from a balanced perspective. Just be unconditional about it. You know, you give people a trust. You still have your boundaries. It's okay to trust, but you've got to have boundaries. So when it comes to that social flow, let's move on to the next section. All right, on to the next section. Energy. All right, let's talk about 2 energy drains or things that disrupt your energy flow. Because it's social energy, right? There's fear. That's one of them. That's the one that drains your energy or disrupts your energy. And force. Fear and force. Let's talk about both of them. Both of them create attachment. Okay, when people are growing attached, they have attachment behaviors, right? Both create attachment, and both of them block the flow of your connection. So when you're trying to build connection with somebody, fear and force are automatically blocking that. Simple. And what it does is repel connection. It actually repels it. It pushes people away really quick. And what we want to understand is we have to release that fear and drop that force. Okay? We have to move from a place of alignment. Alignment means you're getting to know them and you're finding things that they value and what you value. Connection is all about value matching, like what you value and what they value, and kind of finding common ground. Sometimes you can be a completely different type of person and you could find common ground. If you just look, you can find common ground. And you'll remember that person. You'll remember everything about them too. And when you come from a place of matching values, it's all the time. Like, let me give you an example of matching values. If you're getting to know somebody, right? You could, what's your Netflix show? Oh, I like this show. I like that show, And that's superficial. Those aren't values, okay? Those are superficial likes and dislikes. We want to get more into like the values of like how they value their time, how they value the work they do, the productivity, the things they value in life, right? Do they value honesty? Do they value integrity? Do they value being upfront with people? Do they value being direct? What is it that they value, and do your values match? Because it's all about value matching. And sometimes when you don't get along with people, it can be a mismatch of values. And you shouldn't always take that personal. Some people do. They'll attach it to their identity. It's that easy. Very easy to do. So when it comes to the fear aspect, the fear is connected to self-doubt. It's when people emotionally shrink. Their self-esteem shrinks in front of the other person. Okay? And it's like it's installed internal inferiority. They feel inferior. It's internal and it's been installed into them at some point in their life, right? Where force could show up as over-explaining and control. That's where you start seeing some red flags, right? And it's all about those red flags, green flags, red flags. It's like you put out a green flag, you get a green flag. You put out a red flag, here's a very good chance you get maybe 2 red flags, okay? Or 1. So that social flow is what it's all about. Let's move on to the next section. All right, we're now on the 4 core principles of this particular section. So this is in regards to flowing with people. Number 1, very first important one, very easy. Be clear. Be clear, be concise, and convey. Those 3 C's. Be clear, be concise, and convey. What do we convey? We convey why and what. What we want and why. Right? And by the way, we don't always have to want something. It really depends on the conversation. That conversation is not always a want. It could also be a why. Getting to know somebody's why, right? So just know that it depends on the situation as to what it is. The next thing we want to go over, number 2, the second of the 4 core principles, is stop over explaining yourself. Start pausing. Pause. Don't always feel the need to fill the silence. Don't always feel the need to fill the silence. Stop and pause and breathe deep and maybe listen a little bit, or just, glance, whatever. Just take in their body language, take in the environment in a little bit, right? That's okay. Not a big deal. The next one, number 3, is consider the other side. It's part of consideration to consider other people. Consider the frame in which they see the world, right? In other words, they may be, because remember, people act, and they act from their own reality. They act from the frame in which they see the world. That's pretty much it. So consider it. Take it into consideration. This person may have been through things. They may have had bad experiences. They may have had different experiences from what I'm thinking about. That's what happens, is we have the tendency to project onto other people, and we don't sit there and consider the other side, like what they've been through, what's on their mind, what kind of day they had, right? We don't consider all those things, right? So part of that social flow is consider the other side, understand the framework of where they're coming from, because people act from their own reality. That's what we're trying to consider, is consider their reality of what they've been through. Everybody's going to have a different experience in this world. The last one, number 4, is align with them. Line up with them in terms of getting to know them, getting to know them a little bit more. If you're on the same page with them, tell them you're on the same page. Hey, I could see eye to eye with that. That's fair. I agree with that. I understand where you're coming from. I could really connect to that idea, and here's how. And if you do see something another way, say, well, instead of saying, I'll agree to disagree, say, no, I see it another way. And that invites them to see your side without throwing on the defensive, I'll agree to disagree, right? People throw that down. This is about connection, not destruction, right? So let's move on to the next section. So in this next section, we're going to dissect that it's all about your internal world. The social flow is all about your internal world, the world that's inside of you, your inner reality, your inner dialogue, your inner emotions, your inner feelings. That's what it's all about. And here's what we can understand about it, is that your energy is your responsibility. Very important. The energy you put out, what you get back, you're responsible for it. It's kind of like being connected to somebody. What you put out, you get back. We've discussed that before. So your energy is your responsibility. It's not your fault. If there's anything went wrong, it's not your fault, but it is something you have to own. You have to take ownership of it. It's not about reaction, it's about responding. Now, when you are dealing with that social flow, you're always going to have that thing of the self. You, your identity, everything about you, okay? And we have to be able to get to the point of liberation. Liberation is like setting yourself free, right? And say the truth shall set you free. Yes, in this case, absolutely true. So liberation of yourself. Get to the point in understanding of no longer needing external validation. That I decide my value, I declare my value. There's no need to get it validated from the outside world. Okay? That's important. You no longer need external validation. You no longer need to respond to imbalance with more imbalance. That you're dealing with somebody in a conversation and it starts to get all imbalanced, and in the UK my friend says pear-shaped. Everything turns upside down, pear-shaped. Everything gets crazy, right? You don't really have to respond to imbalance with imbalance. You really don't. If you do, you could wind up just exacerbating it all. You could just nod your head and just understand that what they've just done is really show you who they are, and now you have a piece of insight of, okay, how do you want to proceed? I want you to think about it that way. It's more objective. It's not a judgment. It's not like, let me just start ripping the person apart. That's not it at all. Because this is about social flow. This is not about social destruction. It's about, flowing in conversation with people. So that's a key important idea, is that you don't have to respond to imbalance with imbalance. You can take it in as an insight. Be objective. Be objective. Take it in as an insight. Understand that this person, just say to yourself in your head, this person is showing me who they are. That's it. Okay? And what that will do is help you really understand how to work with that person. You know, most people say, well, I don't have to understand them to work with them. That's not necessarily true. If that was true, psychology wouldn't exist. You have to be able to understand where people are coming from. You know, it's kind of like Gabor Mate says, if your trauma is like a cage or a trap or a jail, you don't just try to break free from the jail. You have to study the trap, pick the trap apart, and find out what makes the trap tick, and then rip it to pieces, pull it apart. And that's how you get out. And that's what I'm basically saying here, is that it's helpful for us to understand the deeper intricacies of things. All right? So don't respond to imbalance with imbalance, right? When it comes to you, take yourself into account, like what your mental state was, where you are, hey, how do you feel about certain things, right? And take the other person into account. You don't know what kind of day they had. And just let things unfold. Part of the flow is letting the conversations, you know, when people say organic, it's got to be organic, you know, the people that just can't say fucking natural, right? They say it's organic, it's got to be organic. It's natural. Just say it's a natural progression and flow of the conversation, okay? So take others into account and just let things unfold and naturally, and just go through it organically. All right? There's no grasping. You're not trying to grasp onto any given idea. You're not trying to borrow social power from them. There's no grasping. There's no proving. You don't need to sit there and try to prove everything. Okay? I mean, unless you're talking about maybe like something scientific or sports or something like that. But when it comes to you and who you are, it's like, do you really have to sit there and prove like who you are? Like I'm Italian. Do I have to prove that I'm Italian? No. That's what I'm trying to say. Anything that is attached to the identity that hard it's like, this is just part of who I am. I'm partially sighted. I only have one eye. Do I have to prove that I have one eye? No, I don't. The answer is no. When there's something that doesn't need explanation, you don't need to go and explain it. People are like, oh, well, you know, well, how did you lose your eye? Oh, yeah, you could communicate the idea like, okay, I was born that way. Okay, the conversation stops there. It's not a big deal, you know? Like, you don't have to over-explain and go into detail. This is who I am, right? This is part of who I am. We don't have to go always into detail. Let's move on to the next section from here. So moving on, when we're dealing with interactions with other people, every interaction that you have is literally a mirror, but it's a diagnostic mirror. It's a diagnostic mirror for your understanding and your insights, or you could call them win-sights. The insights that help you to win in your relationships with people. Think of it that way. So every interaction that you have with people, socially, is literally a diagnostic mirror. Because other people are kind of like a reflection. You know, they're a reflection. They reflect back to us a lot, right? So what I want to share with you is diagnostic means there's information that can help you understand and gain insights or win-sights so you yourself can have better relationships going forward. It's like relationships are like your workout machine. Seriously, they're your workout machine. You get better at them. No one's a master at it. I mean, some people are in better relationships than others, but everybody has their pros and cons. Everybody has their aspects of things. Now, another point of every interaction is when you communicate and it doesn't land properly, a poor landing is data, it's information. It's not a flaw, and it's not self-punishment, because that's what people will do. They'll punish themselves. It's a flaw. I said the wrong thing. No. Literally, poor landing, when you communicate, if it lands incorrectly, it is not a flaw. It is not self-punishment. This is all about committing to yourself, committing to the strength of who you are, and committing to showing up in every interaction with confidence and to the best of your ability. And it's not going to be perfect all the time because life isn't perfect and it isn't a straight line. Let's move on to the next section. In this section, we're going to go over a few concepts and ideas. When you are in social flow and you're interacting with people, you should observe the way you align with people. And this is part of the learning aspect. You're always going to want to learn from what you experience. Observe the way you align with people. When you start connecting and you really align with them in a certain way, alignment means like, hey, I feel this way, and you guys are on the same page. That's the alignment, right? You're aligned mentally and you're aligned emotionally. It's a little bit of both. So align with people, observe the way you align with them. And the most important thing that you can do before we end in the last segment that's coming up is have a reality journal. When you're getting to know somebody, and it could be, let's say, through dating, have a reality journal. A reality journal is a journaling about what you actually observe. Facts only, not projections. These are not future ideas or could be's or what ifs or might be or this or that. None of that shit. Flat out objectivity. You are journaling what you are experiencing. And you are literally looking at the reality of what is. And what this is going to, this is extremely profound as an exercise, to have a reality journal of when you're connecting with somebody, that you are seeing things as they are, not as you would like them to be. Because people fall into the projection trap of what they think or what they surmise or what they assume, or it's all futuristic projections. Look at what is, because if you look at what is, it's going to help you determine whether or not you want to invest further or not. If you start making excuses for behaviors, start making excuses for, why they're not showing up, why they're not doing things, these are projections. Start looking at what is. Literally, on paper, create a reality journal, do the body language column and what they said, and see if they're lining up. What they say and what they do should match. That's congruous behavior. Got it? The next point that I want to bring is, when you are communicating with people, manage your clarity. Don't be afraid to paraphrase or rephrase. Let me rephrase that again. What I really meant was this. Hey, I'm going to paraphrase you for a second, right? I use the word leaps, listen, empathize, ask questions, and then paraphrase. That is right from my book that I'm currently working on, which is the 3 phases to self-love. So with that being said, you want to have that reality journal to write down the facts. It's really just the facts of what you're experiencing with that person. You want to be, these are absolute things, not projections. And you'd be amazed. At the end of the week, you read all of them, you'll be amazed. You'll start to see like a bigger picture of like, wow, do I really want to invest further? Or wow, this looks like it's really something I want to just, invest further into it. Sometimes you meet people in life in passing, in just mere passing. And maybe there was a meaning for that connection. And then you never see them again. That's okay. It's okay. It's going to happen that way. It happened to me many times. Many times. I've been that lone traveler that someone was in trouble and my advice or guidance had gotten them out of that situation safely. And it was almost fortuitous falling into that situation where you were asked. I didn't give the advice. I didn't offer the advice. They asked me. And that was my opportunity to shine with them. Now, when it comes to clarity, you manage your clarity. You've got to manage your energy. You also have to manage your boundaries. Boundaries are a gate, not a wall. You'll hear me say that on this show quite a bit. Every bit of social flow is about developing your social intelligence. This is not about emotional intelligence, although some of it is in there, but it's social intelligence, dealing with people on an intelligent level, okay? We have a tendency nowadays, because of social media, to fall into biases, projections, echo chambers, and we're all operating so subjectively that we forget of the power of how we can be objective and how it can benefit us, help us out socially and help the connection with the other person socially. Because guess what? Social intelligence becomes an extension of insight and understanding. It's not performative. This is not about your performance, not how you're going to look, right? Because if you fall into how you look, you start to fall into self-esteem related traps. Is my hair okay? Do I have a booger on my nose? Is there mustard on my mouth, right? You start to fall into all that, the whole performative aspect. So there we go. Let's go on to the next section and we're done after that. All right, let's move over to the last section. And I just want to share with you, my microphone battery went dead about 2 or 3 videos ago. But again, not everything is going to be perfect. I'm here to deliver the message, so listen up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, by the way, and you can buy me a coffee in the description. I like coffee, what can I say? Let's start off with the next and last part. This is the last part, and it's all about self-love. So when you are in the social flow with people, yes, there is a thing called self-love. And yes, there are people that say, I don't know what that is. I hear it all the time. Say, I don't know what self-love is. Do you know what like is? Do you know how to like something? Yes, okay. Do you like yourself? Because if you can't self-love, you can at least self-like. If you can't self-love, start by self-liking. Approve of you. Have some self-approval rather than seeking it from outside. Approve of you. Give yourself the permission to approve of yourself. Like yourself. And that's very important. And part of self-liking yourself is self-care. Taking good care of yourself. Care of your hygiene, your body, your exercise. Start doing those things because they're all important to actually care. Self-care is a form of self-discipline. People hear the word and the connotation that they have with discipline. The connotation of it is that it's like it comes from their childhood when the parent says, I'm going to discipline you right now. And they hear that word and they think that self-discipline is punishment. It's not punishment. Okay? It's not punishment. It is taking on routines that are hard in the name of your self-development. Okay? So self-love is connected to self-like. So if you can't love yourself, start liking yourself. If you can't like yourself, start approving of who you are. Give yourself permission to accept you as you are. Okay? First off, make self-liking as literally a foundation of your social flow. Make self-love as a foundation for your social flow. In other words, the way you socialize with people, you have to be able to love and approve of yourself. Other people aren't always going to approve of you, and you can't always go seeking it from the outside. Okay? You cannot get things from the outside. It is an internal game. Self-love, self-respect, self-esteem, self-concept, it is an internal game. It is not to be acquired outside of you, and everybody is trying to achieve that. Okay? Now, when you are in dealing with social flow, you're trying to create social flow with people, it's all about connection, connecting, conveying, maybe even convincing, right? Communicating with them, just having that communication. And that self-respect is about taking care of who you are, right? The self-care leads to self-respect. When you start to care about yourself, it leads to self-respect. So self-respect is important. We have to validate ourselves, and that's rooted in our own self-love, our own self-approval. We have to be able to approve and like who we are. We have to have value for who we are as a human being. The valuation, not evaluation, the valuation of who you are as a person, what makes you special, and start looking at those things that actually do. Now, with that being said, it's important to care for yourself, and in conversations, be really careful with that self-deprecating humor. For some people, it could be like a form of confidence. The confident person can use it, but they don't really mean it. Where the people that actually destroy themselves may actually mean it. So there's a gray area of self-deprecated humor. That gray area is a confident person will let that self-deprecation become a joke. They'll let it bounce off of themselves. They don't take it to heart. It's not part of their self-esteem. They're like, you know what? I'm only kidding. It is what it is, right? They can deflect it easily without internalizing it. Where some people will actually use self-deprecation as a form of connection. I'm no good, but you can hang out with me anyway. That would be like, there's many different ways to go about that. It's hard for me to give you a precise answer, but people might use that as a form of connecting on a negative way. In other words, it's not really going to help you, basically. For social flow, self-deprecation, it has to come with that confidence. And not everybody can do it. And if you're one of those people that don't want to, that's fine. Skip over that section. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. But I do want to share there is a difference between the doing it when you're confident versus doing it when there's some neediness or trying to get a connection there, The bottom line to this entire video is you're harmonizing, okay? Social flow is about harmony, connection, bridging the gap with people. Harmonizing without sacrifice, without losing who you are. It's without losing your identity. You have the ability to connect, convey, communicate, and harmonize. Get to know that soul that's in front of you. That's what social flow is all about. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe. See you on the next video.